In this video, we'll start looking at the different tools which are used to analyze and address service quality problems. Very widely used tools in major service organizations. Practical tools, certain applications or certain tools are used, certain tools are used only in certain applications, may not be applicable everywhere. For example, what we are looking at right now is the root cause analysis, also called as the fishbone diagram. We'll see why it's called that because of its entire representation. After we perform the entire root cause analysis, it somewhat looks like a fishbone diagram. The idea is to find the cause and effect analysis. So it's more like there has been a problem. Let's go back and find out what are the different root causes for such a problem. All the possible reasons that might be possible. I mean, all the possible reasons that are there that might cause a specific problem. Traditionally, each of these reasons could have been grouped into five different groupings. It could be equipment, manpower of people, material procedures, and any other reason. Generally plotted on a cause and effect chart, popularly known as the fishbone diagram chart, due to its shape, which I will show you in the coming slide. This technique was largely used in manufacturing, but now it is used for services. For services, there are additional parameters which get added apart from these five groupings of equipment, manpower, material, procedures. What is more important is the customer aspect, which gets added. To break down each of the other areas, people broadly would further break down into front stage as well as backstage personnel. Front stage are people who are directly facing the customer. Backstage are people on the background who are support staff, who are not staff who are directly facing the customer. For example, if we are talking about a restaurant or a hotel, uh, you can or a restaurant, front stage are people like waiters, receptionists. Backstage are like cooks or the cleaners. They are backstage people, right? In a restaurant service. In addition, information has been separated from the entire concept of procedures because you understand that procedures could be a service procedure. There could be a failure in the procedure where we know that as soon as the person walks into a restaurant, he is supposed to be greeted by the receptionist, shown his table, or in a hotel, shown his room, provided the key, and then he does the check-in, takes his ID card, puts the entry into the system, and and after that whatever process happens after that, that is a procedure or a process. But information is more like, if the system does not work, okay, or the front stage person are not aware of what needs to be done, or they do not know what needs to be conveyed to the customer, is basically they do not are not able to customers what to do and when to do it. Things like that become an informational problem but not a procedural problem. Customers were added as a further root cause because it's all about customer being part of a day-to-day operations, where in manufacturing they are not really part of the day-to-day operations. Manufacturing goes through an entire input to output process, and when the output is actually given to the customer, that's how it works out, right? But in a high contact service, generally the telecom service is a very high contact where you have to be in touch with the customer. Banking services where you have to be in touch. A person actually enters your bank and you have to be in touch. Salon services are very high contact services. You have to be in touch with your customer. You cannot provide salon services over the phone. The person will have to visit your salon and take the service physically. So each of these elements, or rather the groupings, play an important role in this entire root cause. When we try to find the root cause, we look at different groupings. Where could be the issue? The best example is an aircraft example, generally used when root cause is spoken about. Generally, it's the airlines industry which is taken an example. Let's say if the flight aircraft can be delayed. Okay, one example, an aircraft can be delayed if a passenger tries to board at the last minute, say with an oversized suitcase, which then has to be loaded onto the cargo hold. Some time is taken and then it goes in and again it enters the aircraft. So if a passenger is late, the flight also gets late, right? But there could be other reasons why the flight is delayed. If we actually have to draw the entire root cause into different groupings, it becomes something called as a cause and effect chart. And a cause and effect chart, when shown for flight departure delays, it represents the shape of a fishbone. You can clearly see it's more like a fish tail and a head, and there are all those bones. Each of those bones are the causes of the for which flight departures happened. Okay, it could be the customers. He arrives late, bypass ticket, counter, oversized bags. Could be other causes like weather and air traffic could be a cause. Facilities. In other causes, I can add even pandemic as a cause, which has grounded airlines. COVID can be a cause. Facilities and equipment, aircraft late to gate, late arrival, gate occupied, mechanical failures, late pushback tug. These are facilities problems. Material supplies, late food service, late baggage to aircraft, late fuel, backstage person, late cabin cleaners, front stage personnel, gate agents cannot process passengers quickly, too few agents, agents undertrained, agents undermotivated, agents arrive late at the gate, late unavailable, cockpit crews, late unavailable, cabin crews, it could be anything. Either cabin crews or the cockpit crews, these are front stage personnel. Procedures, there's a delayed check-in procedure, confused seat selection, there's a problem with the boarding pass. There's a problem with passengers again, poor gate locations, desired travel companies. All of these could be a problem, right? Informational problems, poor announcement of departures, maybe the terminal where the check the scheduled flight departure and the arrival that could not be completely screwed up. There could be a computer problem. There could be weight and balance sheet late because the weighing machine goes for a problem. There's an informational problem there. Okay, weighing machine goes for a problem. It would be equipment problem. What is the display? The information itself which is displayed is have a problem. So any of this can lead to a flight delayed departure. So all of this, which I just read out, totally lead to 27 different possible reasons. So you see, if you actually plot it out, you can see there are so many different reasons why flight actually got delayed. Moving on from root cause, we go to something called Pareto analysis. Now, in this analysis, what do we do? Here, this analysis, there's this guy, it is named after somebody, an Italian economist, I don't remember his name, but it's called so. What Pareto analysis means that 80% of the change in any one variable, for example, here in this case of number of service failures, in this case, number of service failures is is basically flight being departing late. That is the problem here, right? 80% of the problems is caused by 20% of the causal variables. Okay, these are the causal variables, number of possible causes which are identified in the fishbone diagram. Here there are 27 problems. These are all the problems, right? All these problems can lead to delayed departure. In delayed departure, if 80% of a delayed departure, which is 80% of variable, can be caused instead of all these problems, it could be caused by only 20% of the problems. So this is more like it's as we say, um, the and there's the entire wealth, right, in this country, but 80% of the wealth is managed by only 20% of the people. The entire country is actually running not because of most of the other people. Only and the entire wealth is consumed. There are only 20% rich people. There are only 80% of them are the others. So it's 80% of something what happens is only because of 20% of people, right? It's always that 80-20 Pareto rule is used not just in this root cause causal effect analysis, but if we have to look at the same example of the earlier airline, point number 3, 88% of the company's late departing flight from the airports it served were caused by only 15% of all the possible factors. This has been shown in a Pareto chart, which is in the next diagram. If you look at the chart, out of all those 27 reasons we saw, only late passengers, waiting for pushback, waiting for fueling, and late weighted balance sheet are the main problems, are the 20% of the problems which have actually caused flight departure delays. Now, among this, If we still look at further, I'm sorry, more than half of the delays were caused by a single factor, acceptance of late passengers. You see there that histogram kind of a depiction, late passengers have a higher bracket in terms of the histogram, right? We'll move on from Pareto analysis to another tool for improving or addressing analyzing service quality problems. Next tool is blueprinting. Blueprinting is something I've touched upon in one of the very early videos in one of your first modules, first or second modules, if I'm not mistaken. We looked at the entire blueprint of a restaurant, of a hotel, right from check-in to check-out. It basically tells us an entire blueprint of a service process. What happens from a person entering in to a service till he leaves the service. All the individual steps. A visual image of what happens. Well constructed blueprint, just like a house blueprint, just like a uh, plot or a map. Okay. It shows entire sequence of front stage instructions, customer experiences as they take up of the service, all the facilities, equipment, and what a backstage that is happening, everything. Idea for us to blueprint is to find out where are we facing a problem. It's basically to find out the potential fail points where failures are most likely to occur. That's it. Three tools, major tools that we have looked at, apart from looking at what defining service quality is and looking at different measuring service quality, looking at hard and soft measures in the earlier videos, and now we will look at a different concept called productivity. We'll try to see how to define productivity and measure productivity. It is very difficult to define because productivity is a variable factor. Let's look at a restaurant. In a restaurant, today you come and you find the food is good, the service is good, the people are good, everything is pretty good. Tomorrow you come to the same restaurant. It may not be the same. Third day you come. We had studied right in the beginning characteristics of one of the character of service is variability. So when there is variability in service, there's going to be variability in productivity. So productivity cannot be a clearly defined definition. Productivity can be used to say amount of output produced relative to the amount of input. Okay, you can take a ratio, output to input, and that can be a productivity ratio. Fine. And you can try to find out the ratio, if it is very simply, these are more of a manufacturing definition, more of very old traditional definitions of productivity is. But measuring productivity or even defining it, if you can define it in ratios, okay, but measuring it is not so easy as defined, because when we try to measure, we have to measure it on some parameter. Measuring productivity is difficult in services when the output is frequently difficult to define. In a people processing service such as hospitals, let's say we look at productivity as number of patients treated in the course of 1 year and the hospital census or average bed occupancy. But this can be okay, one measure of productivity. But what happens? How do we take out different types of medical activities are performed? Maybe tumors are removed, diabetes is treatment, broken bones are treated. What about the differences between patients? Not every patient is going to react the same way. Output is not going to be the same. How do we judge the difference in outcomes? Some patients get better, some develop complications, and some may even die. And there are some relatively few standard medical procedures and which may offer some highly predictable outcomes. If you're using some computerized stuff, if you're using some state-of-the-art equipment, treatment procedures, depends on the doctors, type of doctors, the qualification, how experienced he is. All of these multiple factors make it very difficult to measure productivity on a single, what do you say, variability. I can't just say, look at number of patients treated in the course of 1 year. I'm looking at only that. I will say I have a high productivity. This year I treated, this hospital has treated 1,000 patients. Next year it has treated 1,500 patients. The treatment of diseases also matters. What type of treatment? If all are cancerous patients, then you probably have the highest productivity in the whole world, which is not true, right? Which cannot happen. Improving service productivity. An example, ATM. Waiting lines is one waiting line improvement of waiting line queues or reducing the waiting line, improving the reducing the time spent at waiting lines is one of the oldest problems of uh, how do you say customer improvement of service quality, right? Customer side, you do not want people waiting either at a line, either at a theater movie service, or at an ATM, or at a banking service, anyway, or at a call. If you are on a call, telecalling, you don't want to be waiting for a long time. You might just cut out and you might just not make a call again. Improving service quality becomes even more difficult in such cases. There are certain generic strategies to improve service quality, reduce waste of materials, all of those listed here. The encourage you to go through each of this because they are very understandable as you read them. It's self-explanatory. That's the word I was looking at. You train and motivate employees to do faster. You redesign customer service process to make it more effective, improve the capacity utilization, broaden the variety of tasks, install some technology systems, which probably, if you have to look at telecalling, then you can probably have some technology, some computerized machine that answers, which we do have, right? Press 1 to go here, press 2 there, press 3, and then finally you're able to reach the right point where you can have a specific kind of a customer person who will take your calls, rather than it going to a generic call where that guy will tell you, no, I'm not this department, he'll transfer it to some other department. You can include technology to help you reduce that time spent. It can tell you where to go based on the inputs that you give, right? So outsourcing some activities to third parties who are very capable of handling certain activities which may not be wholly be handled by the firm. A lot of things: outsourcing, training, redesigning, broadening your type of activity, reducing waste, including technology. All of these can be generic improvement uh, techniques for service productivity. Then there are the customers driven approaches to improve productivity. How do you what do I mean by customer side changes to define to basically improve productivity? Changing the timing of customer demand. When I say changing the timing, you can encourage customers to come and use the service outside peak period. You offer them some kind of incentives to not come during peak period. And when they come outside peak period, basically what you're trying to do is you're managing entire demand, you're managing your capacity. Your service people are very capacity constrained. They cannot do not have enough service personnel to cater to all the customers between 2 to 4, sorry, between say 6 to 9 or 9 to 12 peak hours. Then you can ask them to come between 2 to 4. When you know your service people are actually free and they can handle those extra customers. Change the timing of customer demand. Encourage use of lower cost service delivery channels and self service. What do you mean by that? You basically make them go on to cost effective channels, provide internet services apart from your offline services, provide self service machines like ATM is a self service machine. You see an example there. The lady is actually that's a self service petrol pump. We do not have that concept here in India. I don't know if it is there in any other metros, if it has come up, but it's a petrol station where there are no people who are waiting there to fill your fuel. Make it self-service. They just have to come, punch in their or swipe their card, just like an ATM, or punch in their card, fill, punch in whatever 10 liters, 20 liters, whatever they want to fill in, 5 liters, 1 liter, doesn't matter. Fill the tank automatically. It stops. The money gets deducted from your account, and then your card comes out. Or you pay cash. Cash is in, you enter the cash inside, saying I want to fill in 100 rupees, enter 100 rupees, and only 100 rupees fuel will come out from the fuel station. They've designed their entire fuel station to provide self-service fuel to the customers, thereby avoiding the service people and avoiding improving productivity to help customers serve better. That's one of the one of the ways you can do it, or encourage use of alternate service delivery channels. Sorry, I've already explained that. Or you can ask them to use third parties. What are third parties? Third parties are where you can actually make them. Um, what you can make them do is, let's say, travel agencies, or if you are a company, okay, where you want to employ. Let me give you a best example, okay, to be able to make this more clearer to you. Hmm, generally resorts, okay, not resorts. If I took at resort services, I'm not able to get an example right now, but what happens is that the idea of third party is that you have an organization, service organization. They tie up with some smaller parties who are also similar to their same field. Let's say for a not restaurant, for a resort service, there is a booking that, oh, let's say there is Make My Trip, there is Ola, not Ola, sorry, what is that? Oyo, and there are others people who help in hotel reservation booking, right? But they do not own the hotels. But there is a resort service which owns the hotel. That resort also does booking if they go onto the resort's website and book, or you call them. But you can also go to these third parties who are other people, other players who also benefit when you book. But you also are able to make customers can also book from their additional provision, where they can book they can make a reservation in your resort. So yeah, this is a good example of a third party. That's all I have in this video, and we complete the entire module 4, uh, touching upon the all the concepts of service quality, service productivity, the different ways to measure, the gap model, the serve call scale, and everything else that you studied in terms of different tools. Equally important, need to understand that this chapter is of paramount importance when it comes to understanding services clearly. Go on further in the coming videos. We'll look at service design process and delivery processes. Thank you so much.